Michael. Good morning. How are you
Good
doing
morning, man.
today?
How are you?
Doing good, and you?
Awesome. Hello, everybody, and welcome to AGTP Daily. We go live every Monday and Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time to discuss the most important tech stories impacting the United States of America. Today is Monday, the 3rd of August. It's already August 2026. Let's get right to it. We're going to talk about Qwen 3.8-Max being released along with DeepSeek V4-Flash and them closing the gap potentially with Anthropic and OpenAI, Chamath's framework for investing across the AI stack, and is Gen Z sabotaging enterprise AI? Later in the show, we'll be joined by David Close, the chief solutions architect at Futurex. And finally, we're going to talk to Alex G, the co-founder at Rena Labs. Martin, let's get right to it. What do we want to talk about with Qwen 3.8-Max and DeepSeek V4-Flash?
Yeah, so there was like a lot of model release in the last few days. The first one being DeepSeek V4-Flash on Friday, and the second one being Qwen. I always say Queen. I don't know why. Maybe because it really looks similar in terms of writing. But yeah, Qwen 3.8-Max that got released today.
And what's the big deal with V4-Flash? Because Qwen is actually interesting. I don't know why everybody's talking about like how many parameters these things have anymore. Like once it gets over 2 trillion, like does it really matter? And isn't the whole idea for some of these models that like there are too many parameters, that they're too heavy, and that if you really want to at least run it on device, or if you want to take advantage of the open weights, that they need to be smaller, or that if they're going to do the MOE style thing, that they need to run on fewer parameters for every exercise or for every piece of inference that they're doing, yeah? Like, why are we bragging about size, considering that Qwen is 2.4 trillion parameters and Kimi K3 was 2.8, so it's like 400 billion parameters less. Like, why do we care?
And DeepSeek V4-Flash is 284 billion, so it's 10 times smaller.
10 times smaller. So why do we care? Why are people even touting this anymore?
So this is where it gets interesting. But before we go to the analysis, do you want to state the fact first? Do you want to tell the story first?
About which one?
About both of them?
So Alibaba released Qwen 3.8-Max, right? This big parameter thing. And it just, in all the benchmark stuff, it feels like it performed really, really well. And it's also really cheap. So Alibaba is offering the hosted model at $2 per million tokens and $6 per million for the output. And any kind of lower prices for cached context as well. And they were touting this as like really, really good at programming as well. And just at the bottom line for all this stuff, and we can talk about OpenAI like lowering their prices as well, but the bottom line is that the Chinese market is forcing the US market to do at least one of two things. Either A, lower their prices, B, open weight their models, or C, all of the above. What do you think?
Sorry, yes, it's not definitely. I think there's a lot of stuff going on. So this is for Qwen 3.8-Max, right? That was released this morning, Asian time. And then for DeepSeek V4-Flash, that was released on Friday, just to give a bit
more 31st of July, yeah?
Yep. Just to give a bit more context to people who are listening. So they released that on Friday. What is very interesting here is that it's only a 284 billion parameters, so 10 times smaller. And it is also a mixture of expert type of model with only 13 billion active. So now we're talking about really, really tiny. Also, what is absolutely insane with this model is, first of all, when they showed the comparison, like on how it performs, it's really, really close to Opus 4.8 in terms of how good it is, okay? But
what does really close mean? And is really close good enough?
So I would say Opus 4.8 is great, and if it's something that is really, really close and you can do the same thing and it doesn't, create too much problem for you if you can do the same task, I think it's definitely enough.
Well, how does it compare to like Fable 5 and to Opus 5?
So Fable 5 will still be better of DeepSeek V4-Flash, but it's getting there. This is the thing, like it's getting there. But the reason why all of this thing is absolutely crazy for DeepSeek is that Opus 4.8, first of all, is not a 200-something billion parameters. We don't know exactly what's the number. Anthropic never released it, right. But it's probably more like a couple of trillions, maybe like 2, 3, 4. So now we're talking about...
I think they said 3 to 5, yeah?
Yes, so something like that. So now we are only 284, first of all, so that's the size. But second of all, what is absolutely crazy is the price. So the price of DeepSeek, and I just want to show you exactly what's the number. Because to me, when I saw that, I was like, this is mind blowing. 1 million output token for DeepSeek V4-Flash, $0.28. 28
So 28 cents, yeah.
Opus 4.5, Opus 4.8 for 1 million output token is $25.
So how do they get it to be so cheap? Or are
So
they just
it's-
losing money?
So it's 100 times cheaper.
Right.
100. So now we are talking about something that is probably as good, right? And that is 100 times cheaper than Opus 4.8. So that's why, I think to me, this is where really, I remember when I saw that on Friday, I was like, wait a minute. First of all, we need to wait a little bit to see if people use it and if it's actually as good as Opus 4.8. And then I was like, if that's the case, how stupid I am to pay 100 times more expensive. That's really the first moment where I was like, I felt stupid paying for the $200 subscription to have access to Opus 4.8, where maybe I can do the same thing for what, a fourth of the cost?
So does DeepSeek offer a subscription?
So they don't offer a subscription, but this is part of where it gets really, really interesting. First of all, they don't offer a subscription, but at that price, I've seen people spending hundreds of millions of tokens and paying like $5, so it doesn't matter at all. You can just pay for the API, and stuff are basically almost free for everybody. That's the first part. But the second part, at 284 billion parameters, now I've seen a lot of people across the last few days being able to host this on the NVIDIA Spark, the $5,000 computer that has 128 gigabytes of RAM. So which means once you install it there, that's basically free. You don't pay anything to run your DeepSeek model. So this is a big deal to me. I didn't see yet enough examples. So on the benchmark themselves, right? Like the same benchmark that we see all the time and that DeepSeek shared, the model looks really, really good, but I didn't see yet enough examples. I'm still looking for it. I'm still waiting a little bit more. I think people need more time to test and to give real user experience, really use cases. So we will keep you informed. We will follow this story because I'm the first one who's super interested. I want to know if I can spend much less.
How long do you think the NVIDIA, you said the NVIDIA machine is $5,000, yeah?
Yes.
How long do you think it will last? How long do you think it'll be usable?
So you mean how long for how many new models release?
Yeah, in other words,
the next 6 months.
If you just look at it and say, if I'm going to spend $5,000 and I can use it for the next 2 years, the machine alone costs $208 a month.
Yes. So that's
so then you have model costs on top of it, right?
So if you buy the machine and you host the model locally, then the model is free, right?
Right,
so
but then you're still paying the same $200 a month. So the question is how long is that NVIDIA machine going to be useful, or the other machines that are out there, whether it's the AMD machine or the NVIDIA machine, going to be useful to do this? And it's the same cost, or actually slightly more expensive. It's actually $208 a month for at least the next 2 years, which is exactly what you're paying right now for the hosted version of Anthropic, which is, and you're using Anthropic 4.8 or using 5.0?
I'm still using 4.8. I see a lot of people saying bad things about 5.0.
Yeah, a lot of people say bad things about 5.0. But I mean, so at least the next 2 years, you'd be paying the same price that you'd be paying for Opus 4.8.
No. And I think that's
Wait, did you say no or did you say yes?
Yeah, no. I think no. I think this is exactly the point. I think no. I think we're just going to pay for the API, because if with the API we're going to spend $5, $10, maybe $20 per month. I think that's what we.
So you're not going to host it.
So we are not going to host it because economically it makes no sense,
Right.
and that's something that we've been talking a lot about on the show, which is even if it starts to make sense that the consumer can host it on their home hardware, then it means that the cloud provider will be able to host it at a much cheaper price because they have volume, because they are more optimized, and they can have like much stronger hardware across the board, right? So the cloud will always be cheaper for hosting AI models, I think, rather than our home hardware. So I think companies who have private data, who need to fine tune, who need to do like all of these things, they are going to be happy to be able to use this model on-prem, because then that has a pretty unique use case. But for individuals, I don't think anyone has a real need to fine tune or to have proprietary data, or at least it's not like the big part of the population. Maybe
So
some
do
unique
we
use
know
cases.
anybody that's actually fine-tuned one of these models? Do you know what I mean? Because we've not done that, right?
No. So because the hardware was impossible to have, right? But
Yeah,
now
but now
it
that it is
starts
possible, do we know anybody that has the expertise to actually do that?
So we had a couple of guests on AGTP who said that they fine-tune models for enterprises, not
Yeah,
for
but I'm just saying, do we
individuals.
personally know anybody that's done
No,
that? Do you know what I mean? So we could lean on that expertise. And
No.
because just using us as like a metaphor for everybody else,
Mhm.
we're pretty tech involved. We're pretty,
Yeah.
we follow all this stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm just curious, like if most people, like I get the open weight thing. We spend a ton of time talking about it here.
Mhm.
I guess one of my questions is like, what percentage of people are actually going to have the necessary amount of knowledge, even inside big institutions, to change the weights? And I'm also curious, like, and to fine tune the weights. And I'm also curious, like, how often the weightings change, right? So every time a new model comes out, I'm presuming the weights change, right? And if that's the case, do people have the expertise internally in big institutions, mid-sized institutions, to be able to go, okay, here's a new model. Am I using the new model? It's way cheaper if I pay the API cost because it's $5 a month, or even if it's $100 a month, it's still half the price. But now I've got to refine tune it. Or at some point, are people just going to get lazy and just go like, you know what, never mind, I'll just use it the way it is? I'm just curious, like how that's going to play out. What do you think?
Yeah, so I think this is exactly the type of solution that thinking machines are building right now. They are saying like, look, we are going to make a solution that's going to be easy for you, that's going to be usable for you to actually put your own data into the model, right? Like this is exactly their goal. But what I think is that it's not really a consumer product. Like I don't see a lot of people
No. I'm talking
needing
about it
to
from an
work,
institutional product as
yeah.
well.
So
But like, do people have the expertise to do that? And do
maybe
you know what
not.
I mean? Because it's so new.
Yeah, so let's see how it goes. Yep. Actually, it's not really new. Like OpenAI has been offering to fine tune their models since the get go. Like since the launch of ChatGPT, you could fine tune the models.
But
So
how
I
do you
think
do that without knowing what the weights are?
so but they had open source model at first, and then they stopped both. They stopped the open source model, and they also stopped the fine tuning.
Nice.
So yes, this is a unique use case. I think right now that people are really excited about the possibility of installing the model locally. Like this is really what people are trying to do. So they're excited about this idea. But once we go, out of the bubble, and once we go a little bit out of the fun, then I don't think it makes sense for the vast majority of people to host it locally, especially at this API price that is so cheap.
So
So yeah,
what is the commentary on this? If you know what I mean. In other words, it's only been released for a few days, both
Yeah.
of these models, right? So what is it? 3.8 Max was only been released on the 31st, and
no.
DeepSeek was released today, right?
That's the contrary. DeepSeek on Friday, so 3 days ago, and Qwen 3.8-Max this morning.
Today, whatever.
Yes.
I mean, 6 of one, half dozen of another. But they've both been released like in the last few days, yeah?
Yeah.
Has there been enough testing or commentary out there from on both sides of this for people that have either A, downloaded it and started like mucking around with it on their own machines to see if that's possible, particularly for the much smaller model, right? The 280 billion parameter model. And so that we know, because the benchmarks are great, but we talk about this a lot, right? Like the benchmarking is good because it's apples to apples, but in real world usage, things change. So do we know anybody who's actually taken this model, compared it, taken 3.8 or taken the other model and compared it to taken DeepSeek and then compared it to Anthropic or compared it to OpenAI in like a real world scenario. Have
So
we had
yeah,
enough time for that? And have people commented on that as well? So we know at least what that sentiment is.
so it's just starting, but not yet. Yeah, not yet. I
Okay.
think it's just starting. That's really what I'm waiting for, right? Like to actually try it myself, right? Because really, once again, like this is the first time that I'm almost feeling stupid to pay for an Anthropic subscription. Like really, when I was looking at that, I was like, wait, if I can do the same thing and it costs me like 100 times less, it's absolutely insane. So I feel like also like it really tells a lot about the directionality in which we are going at the moment, because and that's also why I think DeepSeek, like, in my point of view, my own analysis on that is that Qwen 3.8-Max release today is really bad timing, because it really has nothing new, right? Like it's like a 2.4 trillion per parameter. The output is $6 per million token, so that's pretty much the same as the model from ZAI GLM. That's the same as Chimmy K3. That's approximately the same as Meta and Grox. So there's not really like something new. Where DeepSeek brings something completely new, like a tenth of the price. I mean, even like a 20th of the price of the model from Alibaba, Qwen, and 100 times cheaper than Anthropic, and also a model that is 10 times smaller.
So how do they make it so much cheaper?
That's a good question. That's a really good question. Like, I mean, something that they said is that they didn't train a new model. They only post-trained their previous model. Okay, so the one that they had in April, if my memory is correct, then they just post-trained it differently, and now it's the same one but a little bit different without starting from scratch.
What does that mean? They post-trained it.
So I don't know exactly, to be honest. I don't want to say any mistake, but maybe they made it more towards agentic coding. That's my hunch here. I think they made it more like towards like I think like my feeling is that because it's so small, it's maybe the first very specialized model that we have. Maybe they removed like all the knowledge that as a developer we don't need, like when we always made this joke about the model can speak German and Cambodian and Korean and Japanese, and we didn't just need English. So if we just remove all the useless language that we don't use, and all the useless domains and knowledge that the AI has that we absolutely never use, then we may have a much smaller models that is actually just what we need. And I feel like that's what they did here. I think they really optimized it for coding itself, because all the benchmarks that we see are all about coding. All the customers right now, like that's a very big part of the client base, is people who are coding with the models. So it would make sense to just do something optimized for this cohort. And we don't really see a lot of use cases or commenting about doing something else outside of coding. So it's hard to judge if that's the case or not. But my feeling is that they really focused on coding itself and they removed everything else, and so that's why it's so small. But once again, it's just my feeling.
So a bunch of follow-up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do we know what they're, so this is DeepSeek. Do we know what chips they're running this on?
No, we don't.
We
I
don't.
think so.
Because I'm just curious, like I always like the details themselves are interesting. The pricing is really interesting. We don't know how they can get it so cheap. The part of me believes that they're probably just like lowering the price so they can get more activity on the models. But maybe they've also gone through like the post-training stuff means that they take this raw AI model and then they just like run it through like preference optimization, supervised fine-tuning, and reinforcement learning to make it just better. Right. So it would be unlikely that this is just a post-trained model of their previous model, but they've probably changed a whole bunch of other things too. The question for me is now, what is the second order and third order impact on companies like Cerebras and NVIDIA and even Huawei, who's developing chips, right? And even DeepSeek, who said they're going out there to design their own chips to make it more efficient for their models. That to me seems really interesting too. And it'll dovetail nicely with what Chamath said in our second story about like what to invest in and what not to invest in, if that makes sense. But the pricing alone is not, to me, the most interesting thing. It's the optimizations that they've done on it, but also the availability and the impact that it's going to have on other things. We talk about this a lot, right? So like you can have a model like 5.0 for Fable and also for OpenAI, and have it to have 3 trillion or 5 trillion parameters, which is going to give you a much more granular look, particularly on the inference side for the results, both for just like chatting back and forth, but also for much longer context applications. Meaning, like, you want to give an agent something to do, and it has to do it over like a period of time, as opposed to just giving you one answer back. And part of the reason why is that they're in their mind, they can use all of these parameters because it doesn't feel bloated to them. One, because they don't ever expect to open weight, at least they haven't up until now. And two, is that they can run it on their own servers, and they can run, we talked on ATP Insights this morning about like what 20,000 Hooper style NVIDIA chips can do for a 20,000 GPU cluster. And it's ridiculously powerful, but Blackwell's way more powerful than that. And that's probably what all these other companies are running their stuff on. And if you're not anticipating open weighting it, then the more parameters, obviously, the better. And if your AI stack, meaning all the technology that you're running and the data centers in which you're running it, are powerful enough to run it in a way that has low latency and is really fast, that's good. They do have a pricing problem now, for sure, but they've always had a pricing problem against the Chinese models. It's just like, what is the factor of that pricing, right? In other words, is 10, 15, 20 times pricing more pressure on OpenAI and Anthropic than 10 times cheaper or 6 times cheaper? Or is it just like, do you know what I mean? Or is it just pushing the envelope just a little bit further? Because
I think here it's not pushing a little bit further. I think here it's like we're entering a completely new world. Now we are 100 times cheaper.
Yeah.
So
I mean, that was always the direction we were going in, and the open weight models were always going to be cheaper, right? It's just a fact. It's just like they weren't always going to be cheaper.
Yes and no. Yes and no. Actually, I would say that all the open weight models in the last 3-4 months, like all the releases, have always been about bigger models and also more expensive models. Like Chimmy J3 is bigger and more expensive than Chimmy 2.5. And which is bigger and more expensive than Chimmy 2. And that has been the case since, the last six months. That has, like, really, they tried to catch up to the frontier model by becoming bigger and by also making their own offering more expensive. But here, it's completely different. Here, like, they come DeepSeek on the market with something that is not only 10 times smaller, but also 100 times cheaper. So they go the opposite direction from everybody else. And so that's why, if that's true, that it can be actually as good as Opus 4.8, really, I feel absolutely stupid to pay $200 to have access to Opus 4.8. And I think that's going to be the same for everybody. Like, really, like, it makes no sense. Like, if we can tomorrow do the same thing that we are doing today for $10 a month, everybody is going to switch. It's going to be a bloodbath. So,
right, so that's why the thumbnail says China's AI is saying that US's AI is too expensive or is overpriced, right?
And so that's why I think also, like OpenAI, like this. So also that's something that we didn't discuss yet. But OpenAI changed their pricing on the latest model that they released. So the GPT 5.6 Luna and Terra. So just to remind the chat, like a couple of weeks ago, GPT 5.6 they released. OpenAI released the GPT 5.6 model family with 3 different tiers: Luna, Terra, and Sol. Luna being the most efficient and the fastest and the cheapest. Terra being the one in the middle, and Sol being the strongest model and also the most expensive. So they cut the price of Luna and Terra. So the cheapest one and the one in the middle. So they cut the price of Luna, the cheapest one, of 80%, and the one of Terra of 20%. So right now, Luna costs only $1.20 per million token output.
And how does Luna compare with DeepSeek?
So it's still like 4 times.
V4.
It's still 4 times more.
4 times more expensive, but from a performance perspective.
So this is actually the key thing. Like DeepSeek doesn't compare themselves to Luna; they compare themselves to Sol. So the
Right.
strongest one. But it's pretty funny that OpenAI like dropped their price literally the day before, the evening before in the US. So probably less than 12 hours before DeepSeek was released.
But they still didn't drop the price of Terra to the same 80%. So it's not $1. It's still way more
No.
expensive than DeepSeek, right? And
Yes,
probably
yes,
more
yes, yes,
expensive
yes.
than Qwen 3.8-Max.
Yes, yes, yes. So it's still much more expensive on the Terra side.
Mm.
Yes, sorry. On the Sol side, GPT 5.6
On the
Sol,
sold side, yeah.
so the strongest model that they have. And DeepSeek compare themselves to Sol, which cost at the moment $30 for
Right. So
1 year
the
token.
Sol pricing hasn't changed at all, just the Luna pricing and the Terra
Yes,
pricing, right?
yes. So so
Yeah.
it looks
So
like OpenAI
so it
that
doesn't
they try to do something, they try to get cheaper, but not too much.
but it doesn't feel like it doesn't feel like it matters as much, right? It's like,
No,
do you know what I mean? It's like if McDonald's drops the price of its hamburger but doesn't drop the price of its Big Mac in
yes,
comparison to the Whopper. Do you know what I mean? It's like
yes.
it's neat to announce.
Especially just before DeepSeek is released, right? Like
Well, they
DeepSeek
must have
V4-Flash is
known,
released.
right? I mean, I have to believe that there are
I think
moles
so too.
inside of all these companies that are talking to each other. Like, you got to tell Sam Altman that we're just about to drop this model, which is like 28 cents per million. What are you guys
Is
going to do?
especially when they do the announcement, like I think 12 hours before the launch, right? Like it was really like in terms of timing, it was really interesting. But yeah, so that's why like let's wait a little bit more to see like really what are the use cases, what are the problems, if DeepSeek V4-Flash is actually good, and if we can use it, and if that's the case, I think we are going to see much more small models like this, and people will need to be able to compete at this level. So yeah, I mean, we are going to see more companies releasing this type of super efficient model. Because if it's good, then it's going to be a bloodbath again. Like,
Are we convinced though that a model that has 280 billion parameters is going to be able to keep up with something that has 3 to 5 trillion parameters
yep.
going forward, or is this just like a short-term blip?
So I think that especially if you do agentic coding, like as long as it can code and it can do what you ask, I think that's okay. I mean, coding is not changing that much in 6 months. It's the same thing, right? Like the coding language are exactly the same. What you ask the model is exactly the same. So if tomorrow you can either do 100 times more, or you can cut your bill by 50 because it's just much more efficient, then I don't see any
Yeah, I
reason
mean,
to not do it.
so we talked about this before, right? From a coding perspective, you have big
Yes.
problems for companies like Cursor and for the output of Codex and also for Cloud Code, whether it's 4.8 or 5.0 or Fable. Like we've been talking about this for a long time. But what are the other, you know what I mean? Like, what are the other use cases? It's not just coding. Like right now, that's how everybody's making their money.
So
But those aren't the only, that should not be the only use case. Like if you have businesses like Salesforce going out and again giving API access to all of that to Salesforce 360, and then expecting agentic AI, not agentic coding, but agentic AI to like interact with that entire ecosystem of Salesforce. What is that going to do to the cost? And will those activities be better served by, again, a hosted 3 to 5 trillion parameter model, or, you know, like whether it's GPT 5.6 Sol or Anthropic's Fable 5 or Opus 5, not from a coding perspective, just from an agentic AI perspective? And can one of these smaller 280 billion parameter models give the same performance for things that aren't coding per se?
So I think here we really focus just on coding. That there is zero communication, zero hint
Right.
at do something else, basically. Right? It's all about just code. That's it. So that's why I think that they just target this community, this cohort, and that's really smart because I think this is the largest client group right now. I don't think anyone I mean, ChatGPT tried to launch GPT cohort, right? Like 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I don't think
Nobody cared.
it's the biggest. I mean, I don't think there's a lot of people outside of coding who say, "Hey, we absolutely need to do agentic AI right now." It's not like the biggest customer group at all. It's not like everybody's using GPT Watch. So that's why like the developers are still the biggest client base right now, and I think they are optimizing for this. And my hunch, once again, I have no no information, but my hunch is that they really optimized their model just for coding. That's why it's so small, and they just removed everything else. And if they did that, this would be super smart, and that would be the first model that is good and small, and that's why they can be
good
so
and
much
small,
cheaper.
good and small for one thing. Like, what do we think? What do we think that 5.6 Sol would be if you removed all of the, I would say, the
exactly.
fat and just focused on coding?
Exactly, and
It would
that's
be the
maybe
same,
what they did.
probably, or better.
And that's probably what they did. That's my feeling. They removed everything else and they just did that. Yeah.
Right. So it's neat in one way, but not so neat in another way, in the sense that like it competes on the coding side because that's what everybody's doing today. But I'm just curious, like, because one of the things that we've been talking about for this entire year is, are we going to get specific models for specific things? And that's kind of what it feels like this is. This is a coding model.
Yes, it could be. Yeah.
And that's probably true. That's true for DeepSeek. We don't know if that's true for Qwen, and Qwen's not as ridiculously inexpensive as Flash V4.
It is also huge. It's a $2.4 trillion per.
Yeah.
Sorry, 2.4 trillion.
But it almost sounds to me like DeepSeek, because DeepSeek's DNA has always been, let's do things as cheaply as possible and as optimized as possible. So it shouldn't be shocking coming from DeepSeek. That's the first thing. And the second thing is, they must have sort of carved this out of one of their bigger models. And I wonder like how hard it is to do that. In other words, let's say Qwen wakes up tomorrow, not Qwen, or Kimi K3 wakes up tomorrow and just goes, Moonshot just goes, that's easy to do. We just pull all the agentic coding stuff out, and then we just make it like 0.15 cents per million.
Yeah. This is a strong possibility. This is definitely a strong possibility. And so that's why like we need to see if it's actually good. This is one big question. Is it actually good? And even if it is, as I was saying earlier, everybody's gonna do the same thing. Like really,
so then what's the pressure on OpenAI and Anthropic to actually do the same thing and to lower their prices? Because, and there's more than that, right? We haven't spoken about like AWS or Microsoft or how they all run these, like the bedrock model of just like you can have access to any model. It would be interesting to see, particularly in the context of the US and China, like going back and forth on like, you can't use our stuff, and it's like you can't export your stuff to our country. All these little fights that are happening. It'll be interesting to see what the impact is on OpenAI and Anthropic, to be fair. And even Grok was way cheaper than the other foundational models, right? To begin with, but it wasn't clearly not as cheap as DeepSeek Flash V4. But again, it's doing different things too. So it's not like an apples to apples comparison. Yeah.
Once again, it's too early to tell.
Right?
Like we need more example, we need more use case, we need like we need a little bit more experience on DeepSeek V4-Flash to actually tell if it's the same, if it can be replaced, if you can stop using Opus 4.8 and start using DeepSeek V4-Flash. We don't have the answer to this question yet. People are trying, and we just need to wait a little bit, and then we will know. And once again, we will talk about that on the show because I think this is super important. But if it's the case, like let's just assume it is, right? Like then yes, then very next step is going to be for everybody to be able to compete. So they will need to launch something like this. We will see everybody, Anthropic, OpenAI, Grok, Meta, like Kimi, Moonshot, like absolutely everybody start launching small specialized models for coding first, because that's the biggest cohort, and then probably just keep going like this for the next domains, right? And then,
so Cursor is more expensive than this, right?
Cursor Composer, you mean their model? I think it is. Yes. This is the cheapest by far. Yeah.
But that's the funny part, right? Because Cursor preempted the, like, we just have a specific model, like it's in the name. It's called Cursor, right? It's meant just for coding.
Yes.
So that's one model that compares 1-to-1, it seems to me, with what DeepSeek put out for Flash V4, and it's still way more expensive.
Because they post-trained Kimi K2.5. So the base for Composer was Kimi K2.5. And I think it's a much bigger model. But yeah, this is pretty much the same idea. Yes, it's not too far. It's not too far. And I'm checking the price right now. Cursor Composer 2.5. They have 2-tier, standard and fast. The standard one costs $2.5 per million tokens, so 10 times more expensive than DeepSeek V4-Flash. And the other one, the fast tier, at $15 per million token. So 15 it's like a lot of like much more expensive.
300 times more expensive.
So
What does it do
yes.
for what is all this? Because we've talked about all the directionality right here.
Yes,
And we also talked a lot about all these things becoming commodities, and it feels like this is like
exactly. Yeah.
step 4 in the path towards we're going to commoditize this stuff. I mean, I think maybe Grok was like step 3 because they were just like, we're going to make stuff stupidly cheap as well, even in comparison with the other non-open weight models.
Yeah.
Grok was always, not always, but significantly cheaper, particularly after they bought Cursor to enter sort of the coding space.
Mhm.
But Apple has spent a lot of time and energy saying that they were working on compression techniques, right, to be able to run this stuff on device. I think it still matters because I don't think anybody was going to run, although that's not true, right? Because Boris, whatever his name is, Chernin, said he was running most of his coding stuff off of his iPhone, right? But not on his iPhone, but he was actually doing it
Yeah,
from
so
his phone.
that's the interface. Yeah, that's the interface, the
That's the
chat
interface that he was
interface.
using, but he wasn't running it on his phone, obviously, because it wasn't powerful enough. But once we get to that point,
Mhm.
mm,
Yeah, no, so that's why I think this release is huge. This release is huge. It can imply a lot of new things that can happen. It's really close to getting the model as a commodity. This is true. Then also the next question is this is only V4-Flash as of July 31st, 2026. What about the V6-Flash in February 2027 or the 8-Flash in August 2027? It's just going to get better. So even if
but is it,
today,
but are we presuming that Flash is still going to be just a coding model? Because if it is, then it, like how again, as you said, like how much better is it going to get to
so
code in here? Because coding is not changing much, but the
exactly, yeah.
interactivity of agentic AI and stuff that's changing all the time and
Yeah.
needs to get way better, right?
Yes, but if it's get good enough that then we can use and that's almost free, perfect, right? Like this is exactly what we want, and this is really like I mean, I don't know how much hard to say, but maybe like at least 50% of my AI usage right now is just
Right.
coding, and then another big part would be writing for what we do. But if we can just remove half of what we do and just replace it by something that's basically free, then we can go from $200 per month on Entropy to $100 per month. We can just divide our bill by 2. And that's the case for every customer of OpenAI and Anthropic. Everyone can do the same thing. And maybe more for the one who do 100% of, we use their Anthropic subscription to do 100% coding. So no, this is huge to me. And once again, this model can get better. So even if it's not perfect today, in 6 months, it may be better, and we may reach the point of it's good enough. So either we are already at the point it's good enough, or we're gonna get there in a couple of months. So yeah, it's really arguing for the model. Is the model already a commodity as of today? Yes.
What does it say about innovation in this space? Meaning innovation for other potential products, right? Because that's been the big deal here. Is like, what are we going to get to innovate? Do you know what I mean?
No.
In other words, having coding is great. We've had coding.
Okay.
Cursor does it. Codex does it. Claude Code does it. Now this just does it way cheaper, and it feels like they've like stripped it out of a bigger model to make it more efficient, also to make it cheaper. But what does it say about product innovation in the space for other types of activities to use for AI? Because right now, we're in August. What are we like? We're almost 2/3 through 2026. We still have only one product that's useful for these
Yeah, no, it's true.
LLMs. No,
Yeah, no, yeah, it's true. Yeah, it's true, and that has been the agentic coding that was shown to the world by OpenClaw back in February, right? Like it's really the moment where the entire world said, "Oh, we can do agentic coding. How does it work? It's absolutely
right?
amazing." Then we need to double down on that, and then we saw the massive acceleration in AI adoption of the last 4 or 5 months, for sure. But and before that, there were some marginal use cases, I would say, and now I think the world has been focused in the last 5 months on agentic coding. I don't know what's next and what they're gonna do, but right now it's still a big market, so I don't think there is a big urgency for all of these guys to go to something else. I think right now they can compete here. There's a lot of room, and then let's just see where it goes after. But also like, I think, I think actually the models themselves they have no clue about what's going on. So they just wait for guys like Peter Steinberger to find the use cases for them,
What a
and then
joke,
they
though.
build
Isn't
something.
it a little bit of a joke considering they're spending
No, for sure, I agree.
hundreds of billions of dollars on infrastructure to make sure that you can like
Exactly.
agentically code stuff feels like a huge waste of money, doesn't it?
Yeah, and they have. I mean, like they just bet on the fact that AI is going to be used. How and by who? No idea. What is going to be the first use case? What's going to be the second use case? What's going to be the third use case? They don't know. They are not the one who are doing that. They need guys like Peter Steinberger to actually show the world what you can do with what they're building. That's it. I think this has been consistent. We haven't seen any breakthrough use case launched by any of the model providers. Everything has been
Do we
launched
need we
by
need a few more smart guys from Austria to come to the United
exactly.
States and like figure this shit out? Can I call
Exactly.
somebody at the Vienna University of Technology and see if they have any other ideas?
Exactly. Exactly. We need people to show them ideas and then they build stuff for that. I think this has been consistently true since November 2022 and the launch of ChatGPT. They have no clue.
I'm just concerned about like what the innovation is going to be like. First of all, I don't think this is a gigantic surprise from DeepSeek. And I think if somebody on the frontier model side, on the frontier lab side, sorry, has been blindsided by this, I think they weren't doing their job. And I think part of that is they know internally, whether it's a mixture of experts thing that just like pulls this stuff out, that uses a smaller amount of parameters, right? Every time they do this, because that's kind of what this is, right? You have 284 billion parameters. We don't know how many. Was it clear for the DeepSeek Flash V4 how many of those parameters it's actually using for every? Was it 90 billion? I can't remember. Was there a number out there that was published?
Yes, 13 billion.
1.3.
Yes, 1.3.
Okay,
So
but I'm just curious, like how many parameters is used for, again, for codecs or for Claude 4.8 or Claude 5.0. And again, how much does it matter, right? Because they're not open weight, so you can't really do anything with them. And no one's ever complained that codecs or Claude 4.8 is too slow, right? That there's too much latency. And the likelihood, at least today, that those guys, I mean, the likelihood's higher now that they're going to open weight this stuff. I think there's always been pressure. We've been talking about this for months now. There's always going to be pressure on those guys to open weight their models, particularly, and again, I think we talked about this on Thursday of last week. The industry in the United States wants them to open weight those models. Jensen Huang has said that he thinks it's better to have this stuff be open weighted. And a bunch of other companies came out and said this too. So that, I don't think it changes the pressure, it just maybe accelerates it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But I think it would be interesting to see if OpenAI did the same thing, just like carved out the coding part of this and said, we'll make this way cheaper. That's the only way we're making any money. But the big problem for them, again, both for Anthropic and for OpenAI is what? What's the big problem for them?
Compute.
No, it's their IPO.
Oh, if I think the IPO is gone now.
But that's my point, though.
Exactly. I mean, if like let's just say that DeepSeek works, okay, like you can really replace Opus 4.8 by DeepSeek, and this is possible. I mean, in a month, OpenAI and Anthropic can lose half of their clients, in just 1 month.
Well, that's if the US allows this to happen, right? But there's going to be a lot of yelling and screaming, I think, in the United States.
Yes, you're right. This may, I mean, if that's the case, the risk for OpenAI and Anthropic is absolutely insane. And so, yeah, that could definitely open the debate again about like you get to ban these guys like right now, yesterday. We can't let that happen.
But here's the other thing, Martin, right? Is that like if Cursor, which is still available, now owned obviously by Grok, and people are still paying to use Cursor, but it was trained on one of the Kimi models, right? You said what, 2.5?
Yes, I think so, yeah.
So nobody stopped them from doing that.
Yes.
And to be fair, one of the things I talked about on ATP Insights this morning was, in the context of the Hooper chips and who owns them and who can access them, right? Like whether excuse me, whether the companies that are actually using them are even in China. Like what's going to stop one of these Chinese open weight companies from just like rebranding to like, Bob's AI and literally, but running it on a data center in Thailand, which there are plenty of data centers for AI in Thailand, or will be even more. Do you know what I mean? Or running it in one in Vietnam or in the Philippines, where it's going to be super cheap to do that as well. And then just selling that to people in the United States. The point is that I think it's going to be really difficult. We've seen this from a chip perspective. that they're always end roads around getting access to the right technology. And I really feel like this just accelerates the conversation that we've been having about the fact
Yep.
that this stuff is just going to be like commodities. That these big models are not the ways to make money, and
Yes.
they're screwed because they spent so much money on it.
So yeah, let's see. Yeah, no, for sure, for sure, and that's yeah, no, this is definitely the possibility. That's why let's just wait for the next couple of weeks how people react to actually the use cases they can do with DeepSeek V4-Flash.
Mm.
But in case it works, this is going to be bad. I think like right now, OpenAI and for repeat, like I think since Friday, not today, but since Friday, if I were them, if they didn't have access to the model before, because that's still possible, but let's say they didn't have access to the model before, since Friday, they must be checking like how good it is. Like really, like what can we actually do? Is there a threat to our customer base? Because if people can use it to replace what they are doing, then we have a really, really big problem. Like we have to either ban them, that's option one, or
Yeah.
we have to launch a competing model like right now. And like I think like look at the pace of the last 5 months. It has been absolutely insane, right? Like everything has evolved so fast. So my point is that Anthropic and OpenAI they don't have 3 months to
No, but I
react.
don't think. But frankly, I don't think it's going to be that hard for them to carve out a model. They just have a pricing problem now, more than a skill problem. And to be fair, the more you think about it, the more you realize, I think, that agentic coding itself, in the context of everything else that's happening in the AI world, it's just not that hard. Do you know what I mean? Because what is
Yeah.
what is coding? It's logic, it's rules, it's
Yes.
very specifically like mathematically based, like all the things we talk about when we talk
Yes.
about, like, you can even make the case that coding itself, like, software is not invented, it's discovered, right? Because we already know the process that we want to do, but now we just need to tell the software and the hardware what to do.
Mhm.
Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
Which is why, like, even when we were talking earlier about like these math problems that got solved by OpenAI, I mean, I do think we need more detail on this. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole per se. But like, how different is the solving the math problem than saying, oh, OpenAI accidentally hacked into Hugging Face, and then Anthropic coming out and going, hey, we hacked into some places too, even though we shouldn't be doing it. And then OpenAI was like, we hacked into more than one place as well. We just didn't want to tell anybody, and we solved some math problems. Do you know what I mean? Like, how much of this is just marketing as opposed to solving like really, really hard math problems like Fermat's last theorem that people have been working on for a century?
So yeah, I feel like let's not go there because like we should like have like a proper topic about this. I think
Yeah, I'm just saying,
rather
like,
than
we talk a lot about the marketing side of this, right? So,
yes. And so that's why
and
like
we've already
that's
spent a lot of time talking about the hacking thing with Hugging Face, but the reality is, since we talked about that, both companies have come out and said, "Oh, we hacked way more than that accidentally."
yes,
You know
yes,
what I
yes,
mean?
yes, 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 yes. So this is what happened at the end of last week, right?
Mm.
Like when yes, when they both announced that. But once again, I think that let's not talk too much about that because it would be like an entire topic with a lot of things. But to your marketing question, to your marketing point,
Mm.
I've actually done, Michael, in during this weekend, a new tool for undercover media that we can
What
use
is that?
on the show. But I think it's going to be pretty cool for the audience. And actually let me know in the chat what you think about it and if you like it and if you want to do more and if you have also some stuff that you want to measure. But basically, the idea is to do a sentiment analysis on this announcement. So when something happens, for example, DeepSeek release V4-Flash, what are people saying? What's the sentiment? What is it positive? Is it negative? And what are the main ideas inside of that? So I run it on DeepSeek announcement. So when they
On
launch,
X, yeah,
oh, yes. Sorry,
just on X, yeah.
it's all based on X. So
Mm.
the comments and the posts that people are posting on the platform.
Mm.
So for example, for DeepSeek launched V4-Flash, I ran it 2 days after. So I ran it yesterday, actually 2 days after the announcement, and our tool analyzed 661 posts. Okay. And the sentiment overall was 75% positive, 14% neutral, and 11% negative. Okay. out of the top ideas, so the first one that comes back the most often is that it's super, super strong. People are very impressed by how strong the model is. Then the second sentiment that comes back the most often is the price. Absolutely insane that we can get this cost to performance ratio. Then third idea that comes back the most often, and our tools post that as a positive feeling, but to me it's more like very, I mean, it really depends on who you are, if it's positive or negative for you. But basically people as third top ideas say that it's huge threat to Fable, to Claude, to Opus, to Grok, because it's absolutely undercut their pricing by a wide margin, and it could even beat them on some benchmark, at least for now. And so, yeah, so top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the most most common ideas are all positive. And if you want to see the full breakdown, you can just go to our X account, it's posted there. And then the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sentiment that comes back the most often is the first negative one, where people are saying, wait a minute, are these benchmark true? Okay, so people are a bit skeptic about like, is it actually possible? And that's why, once again, we just need to wait a little bit more to see what actually the real use cases.
Can we do an analysis from the sentiment stuff about who is actually making the comments and what their vested interests are?
Do you know what I mean? It's absolutely random people on X that just talk about DeepSeek. So there is no background check. There is no like, okay, we just take the CEOs or we just take Mark. Sorry,
but he also has an agenda. So like Mark would have an agenda, right? He'd be like, this thing sucks. It's way too cheap.
But it would be counted as one if he was in the pool. If he was in the pool, everyone would be counted at one, and it's people who have been giving their opinion. So it's just like absolutely random posts on X.
Can we add something to the sentiment analysis to see like how many followers everybody had? Do you know what I mean?
Yes. We actually only take posts that have a certain level of engagement. So not completely random.
You should explain that to people just so they understand. It's not just like a bunch of random.
No spam as well. So people who have 0 impressions, 0 likes, 0 comments, they are not included into the tool. And also like
what are the criteria?
I don't remember on top of my head, but it's something that I think at least 10 likes. I think that's one of the main criteria, and posted in the last 48 hours. So
48
hours. Something recent.
Got it.
Something recent, something that at least 10 likes. And that removed tons of spam already with just two criteria.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds like some of the normal searches that we normally do.
Yep. So that's what, like 75% positive, 14% neutral, 11% negative for DeepSeek. Then we can compare that to the launch of Qwen 3.8. Okay, so I don't want to like read the entire thing for you, but you can find all of this sentiment analysis on our X account. But the overall sentiment pretty similar: 71% positive, 15% negative, and 14% neutral. Pretty much the same. And the reason why I mentioned that is because I wanted to compare that, Michael, to the launch of Claude Opus 5 9 days ago. Okay.
And what did we find? People hated it.
Exactly. The
Rotten
overall
Tomatoes
sentiment.
7.
The overall sentiment is 41% positive only, 40% negative. So on the Chinese models, we are 70 positive, 14 negative. Here we have 40-40 positive, negative. So my point here, and then I will give you like some of the most common ideas, is that really the momentum has shifted so much.
Why do we think so?
Like that back in April, I think like we should go back to the launch of Opus 4.7. I mean,
4.8 even.
Or 4.8, just 4.7 was missed, but maybe 4.8, and I'm sure the numbers are completely different. I think the momentum has completely shifted, and Flipit was on top of the world back in February and March, and now when they launch something, 40% of people are not happy about it.
But why do we think the sentiment's changed? Is it just a pricing thing? Is it an echo chamber thing? Is it a voter thing? You know what I mean? Like, Do you know what I mean?
I think it's for all the reasons that we've mentioned in the last couple of weeks on the show. Like, first of all the craziness that Anthropic has been doing, right? Like, which is say the models are going to be out of a subscription, and actually they are
Right,
going
right.
to stay in the subscription. And
And
then
that
the
just
full
makes it look
story
like
about
idiots.
agentic
Yeah.
coding that just like make their user base angry at them.
Yeah,
Then
yeah.
the full Fable and Mythos story. Like, I mean, we are not going to do the entire timeline, but the last 2 months of communication from Anthropic has been pretty bad, right? And I think they stayed into the way that they communicated last year that worked well for them and at the beginning of the year as well. And the market has just moved on. Really, the market has moved on. Now we are focused on something else, and Anthropic is still in the past, and that reflects into this number.
Do we have any sentiment analysis on OpenAI and their 5.6 launch of
No,
Soul and
I didn't
Luna
do it.
and say again?
No, I did not do it, but I can do it for Thursday if you want, so we can discuss it and compare.
Yeah, because I'm just curious because
Yes.
OpenAI has kind of changed their communication style. We know
Yes.
this, right, in the last like
Yep.
3 or 4 months, maybe 4 or 5 months now. Yeah.
Yep. So we can actually do that for Thursday if you want, and we can have a look at that on Thursday. Yes.
Interesting. And where can people find this? Like, how would they search for it on our timeline to be able to see? Like, are there specific search words that, or just there's search for
No,
AGTP sentiment?
just scroll, and you will see the post. Yeah, we have a lot of posts on our timeline, but if you scroll in the last day or two, you will find it. And moving forwards, I will just like post more. And so you can just find them on the timeline directly. And once again, if you have like topic that you want to analyze, just put them in the comment and we can create new topic for you. No problem.
Interesting. But there's no way to search for it.
I don't think maybe there's a way. Yeah, there's a way, but it's, I mean,
I
yes,
find that
you
search
can
tools
search.
on X to be kind of lacking, to be fair.
Yes, you can search, and then you would search sentiment. Yes, search just does the word sentiment, and you will find them. But it's gonna be easier to just scroll on the profile. You will find
It
them
looks like
pretty easily.
Minimax just released their weights for their new video model.
Oh yes. They launched a video model as well last week on Minimax. We don't
Yeah,
talk much about
but they
video
launched,
models.
they just released the weights for it, it looks like.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, we knew this stuff was going to change.
Mhm.
And like all the sort of not predictions that we said, but all the directionality that we thought was going to happen is actually happening. So that's a good thing, which means if you're listening to HTTP, you're actually figuring shit out faster than everybody else is, I think.
Yep. And if you're listening to AGTP, I would say pay really close attention to what's going to happen with DeepSeek in the next two weeks, I think. This is going to be, if it's useful, if it can really do the same as Opus 4.8, well, it's going to be a lot of changes really fast. So pay really close attention to that, or just stay subscribed to AGTP because we are going to talk about that. So
do you think there are geopolitical implications for this as well? That this changes the way that governments think about this stuff, in the sense that China, which has been behind DeepSeek and been behind its models as well. I mean, this is one of the things that I talked about this morning on ATP Insights, and that was there seems to be a concerted effort from a hardware and an AI stack standpoint, from a data center standpoint, and also from a software and model standpoint, that the Chinese ecosystem seems to be way more collaborative. Like, sure, Kimi K3 wants to beat DeepSeek, but they'd rather have DeepSeek beat Anthropic than not beat it at all, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
And I wonder if this changes the dynamic around like who can have access to it, who should have access to it, and how the Chinese government is going to control, because they said maybe we'll restrict access to our models as well, since they're getting really good and they're really cheap, and then we force you to pay like way higher prices for similar or comparable performance, particularly from an agentic coding side. And if that's where everybody's using it right now, which in my mind is a bit lame, that these companies that have been producing these models for years now haven't been able to figure out like a better way to use it except for coding. It's just weird, no?
I mean, I think they didn't even figure it out themselves. I think it's Peter Steinberg who showed everybody that it was possible.
or Boris Chernin, the guy at Anthropic, was like, I was up one night and I was like, I wonder if I can make this thing code stuff and whatever, yeah.
Yeah, but it was still very far. Like when Peter Steinberg OpenClaw got released, like I don't know if the team at Anthropic who was building cloud code, because that's what they are doing. They are building the harness to access Anthropic's model. I don't know if they already knew that it was possible to do agentic coding, but what I know is that after OpenClaw got released, this feature of the OpenClaw and the harness and agentic coding got added to Cloud Code really fast in like the next 3 weeks. So they didn't have it. OpenClaw got released, and then they just added all the feature that they didn't have super fast. So
Do you remember when Peter Steinberger joined OpenAI, by the way?
February 14th.
Yeah, whatever, February 14th, right? Because it was
Yeah.
Valentine's Day. It was announced
Exactly.
on February 15th. That was 6 months ago.
6 months ago, yeah.
What's going on with OpenClaw? I know it's kind of off topic, but like, if he's the father of agentic programming, like, does anybody use OpenClaw anymore? Remember we met that guy at
Yes. So
yeah,
they structure the foundation. Yeah, last time we spoke to them, like they structure the foundation and all of that. But yeah, actually, maybe at some point we should do like a topic about OpenClaw and to actually give everybody the information. Yep, I think that would be.
If there's anything new, I mean, that's the thing is I haven't heard anything about it. Have you seen anything on it in any of the searches or any of the, you know what I mean, stuff that we've done over the last like 6 months? Have we heard anything new? And even the guy that we spoke to, whose name we will not divulge, but even the guy we spoke to at AI Engineer was like, I can't talk about it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, they keep doing plenty of updates, right? Like they keep updating the software and taking care of it. But yeah, it didn't break the news as it did back in January for sure.
Yeah, it just hasn't, right?
Nope. Do you want to talk about Chamath investments?
Chamath's framework for investing across the AI stack.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's dividing his I mean, it's a good transition, right? Because one of the things he says is he's not interested in chips and he's not interested in models. But let's just go through some of the details here. He doesn't disagree with you, to be fair. Have you read any of this stuff?
Yes.
So the most immediate opportunity, he says, is in land, available power, and data center stuff. And these assets can be, according to him, these assets can be developed and sold before the underlying computing equipment is installed. And this is true, right? So he's just saying, like, in the case here, because he basically wrote an entire, I wouldn't say thesis on this, but he sat down and put pen to paper about like, where would I invest? Because essentially that's his real day job is like being a venture capital investment guy. And he's basically saying that the value of the shell of a data center, which can be put up relatively quickly, has a lot of value. One, you need to buy the land. You have to buy the land in a place where someone's actually going to allow you to put up a data center. And I think this can be true globally. Yes. It's not just in the United States of America, right? It can be anywhere you want. You need power, right? And then you need that building into which all of the data centers are going to go, including the racks and, you know, all that other kind of stuff that's well designed. And this is the value here is rising for the reasons that we've been talking about again for the last 6 months, and that because this stuff is just getting harder and harder to secure. It just is. Just buying land in a place where someone's going to allow you to put up a data center is just going to be hard. And his longer term thesis says that the most durable, and again, this is something else that you and I have been saying. We kind of wrote it down as well, but that the most durable software value is going to sit in these harnesses, right? The software and services that sit around these models. And if that's the case, again, just so you know, I looked at where SpaceX closed on what day is today? Today's Monday or Tuesday? It's Monday. On Friday. It's trading right now at 112, but it was trading at 108, closed at 108 something on Friday.
Okay.
And that's after spiking up to like 118 on July 30th. So it went down like $10 in 2 days. And I think part of the reason why is those guys themselves, first of all, their AI business itself doesn't make any money. They folded Cursor in, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to accelerate their growth. And they have 2 huge data centers, Colossus 1 and Colossus 2. But it's unclear like how much more land they've actually acquired, how much more power they've actually have access to. And how many more buildings or how many more shells they're going to put up to actually build this infrastructure business out. And they have no harness business at all.
Yep.
Right. They have no harness business at all. And as we've said, and I think DeepSeek actually proves this, which is why it's a really good segue from the previous topic, is that
I mean, actually, let's just like cover that. Cursor is the harness. They bought the harness with Cursor.
Well, but Cursor just does coding, right? It just does agentic coding, yeah?
Yes, but it's it could be deployed to other stuff, like the same way Codex
Could
launched
be, but
ChatGPT
right now
Rush.
it's not built specifically to do like more stuff than just coding. Yeah.
No, but it's an harness for coding, just
Yeah.
like Codex and Cloud Code is as well. Like they
Right.
just do coding, and right now there's only developers who use agentic AI
Do we
anyway.
find it interesting though that Cursor itself doesn't use the Grok model to do that? It hasn't been trained on Grok to actually do its
So
coding.
they use their own model, like the composer model that they train themselves. So
Right. Yeah. I don't know. I just think the whole Cursor thing's interesting. I'm super curious to see like what happens to Cursor in the next like 6 to 18 months, just based on where it sits in the ecosystem. But the market doesn't like it, regardless. The market really does not like SpaceX, and in the context of where most of that revenue is coming from, Cursor or no Cursor, the market just does not like it. Remember, this thing priced their IPO at 135. It's now trading 111.17 or whatever, 71. So the market's telling us that they don't like this business. Anyway, so Chamath was saying he has like these two different investment periods. Physical infrastructure capacity, he thinks is like really important, and then harnesses and applications capture the value as companies convert increasingly affordable models, right? And again, you mentioned this in our previous segment, that if DeepSeek's Flash V4 is 28 cents per million, and if DeepSeek, if you think that their directionality, frankly, is different than everybody else's, then it's just going to keep getting cheaper.
Yes, and better.
Well, yeah, cheaper and better. But so the coding thing is just interesting to me. Again, I don't want to go back to this, but I do think it's important to point out that, as you said, coding itself is not like an evolving and developing thing. We know how to code. And now we're just making it better. But I mean, literally, if agentic coding, and this never happens, right, in the world of software, but if agentic coding just like died at 4.8, at Opus 4.8, or even Flash V4, wouldn't that be good enough or no?
Exactly. I think dies means once we get to a point where it's good enough and it just close to nothing, and then it dies, and then because then every new model is going to be a tiny improvement on the previous one, and I kind of feel like we got to this moment already. I feel once again like Opus 4.6 was good enough. Then we increased to Opus 4.8 because Anthropic did a few changes to make it more efficient on their side, but as a client, nothing really changed since Opus 4.6. And that was the moment where probably like the models for agentic coding died, because then every new thing that came out since then has just been slightly better, but not transformational at all, more expensive as well with Fable and Mythos. And this has not conquered the market, basically, right? It's not like what people really wanted until DeepSeek is coming and is crushing absolutely all the prices. So it's pretty much logical to me, right? Like you got to a point where it's good, and now we get to a point where it's more where it's better optimized, and now it's cheaper, and so basically now we're doing this race to the bottom to get it completely commoditized, and which means there is no more huge improvement that are required to the field. It died.
So if that's the case, right? And if you think, or if we think that like smaller models are the future, and that trillions of parameters are not the future, what does it say about the necessity to have more and more and more data centers, particularly if the models are going to be built in a way that could potentially allow or enable on-device compute?
Yeah, but I don't think on-device is going to be the thing. I except if it gets super cheap, but like super cheap meaning like we can run it on a $2,000 machine, and that's okay, and it works well enough, which may be the case. So which means it's basically completely free. Like you buy a MacBook Pro at $2,500, or a MacBook Air at $1,000, and you can install a model as good as DeepSeek. If we get to that point, then yeah, maybe we're not gonna need any subscription to the cloud. But otherwise, if we don't get to that point, or during the time that we don't get to that point, we will still need to be able to host it in the cloud, because I think it will always be cheaper to host it on the cloud rather than on our personal hardware.
What do you think? But I mean, Apple did announce the fact that they were skipping for their M7, M6 Pro and M6 Max to go right to 7 Pro and M7 Max, so they could do their AI on device.
Yep. So
Yeah, we don't know. Like, we don't know what's going to happen.
We
But
don't
I
know
just
how
feel
big,
like,
right? We don't know how big they would be.
yeah, we
able
don't know how
to
big.
use
But
them.
I do feel like if the models themselves, and if DeepSeek has proven that like activity specific models can be much smaller, can be run on the NVIDIA servers, as you were discussing. And as people were saying across X over the last few days, like, hey, I downloaded and I ran it on this machine. Yeah, those machines themselves are not cheap enough yet. But if the models are getting cheaper and more efficient, the chips should get better and faster and more cheap. Like, I think if those things, as the confluence of those things happen, and they should happen across the same timeline, that we run a risk that, like, Chamath is looking backwards and not looking forward. I do agree, though, that the harness stuff is actually going to continue to be more and more important. But I do wonder, like, whether the physical data center is going to matter as much, because it's like taking a chainsaw to cut a pizza at some point. You just need that thing. You know what I mean? Like, the chainsaw is really good at cutting stuff and really powerful and makes some cool noises. But at the end of the day, you just need that kind of round thing to kind of cut the pizza, even if it's like a Chicago deep dish. And I just wonder, like, if we're looking backwards and not looking forwards from that. I do agree with half of his thesis that the harness and the software around this stuff is going to be really important, because the model itself is going to it's going to keep going lower and lower and lower to the point where it's just free, right? That's what I think. And at some level, the software around it, the harness stuff, is going to matter more than the model itself, I think. Yeah.
To be honest, I have another analysis, to be honest, on
Go
most
ahead,
of
of
it.
course.
It's
We don't
said
have to
the
agree
data
on this.
centers. Like, for me, the data centers is super obvious, just like Chamath. I mean, and I like that it does the distinction between the cloud, the silicon, and actually like the shell, like, and the land and the power. I think it's really cool actually to split that, because that's true that most of the time we think about the one data center as a combination of these three together, right? Like,
He's actually gone out and bought land and secured
yes,
power. Like, that's interesting to me, because there's no company. He's not investing in a company. He's just going out and saying, I'm going to buy some land and I'm going to buy access, like, gigawatts of power. Like, I think
and he
that's
says
actually
like
pretty interesting. Right?
6 gigawatts coming online in the ramp from today through 2029. So it's serious, right? Like, it's a lot. Like as we say, like, currently there is up to 15 gigawatts of power that are being built in the US. So basically, he bought a third of that. Like, with all the data centers being built announced right now in the US. And a couple of months ago, only 30% of them were actually being built. So that's like a lot. That's really a lot of power that he bought. And so I think that's really interesting that he's splitting these three things. First of all, yeah, if I had money, if I were an investor, I would do the exact same thing: land, power, and shell. I think whatever happens, I really think we're gonna use more AI. And I think the cloud offering is just a good offering. Like, it's just a good way that people like, and we've seen that with AWS, putting your database in the cloud, putting your website on the cloud, putting your CRM on the cloud. It's just more efficient and a better way to distribute to your clients, to your employee, to everybody. Like, the on-prem side, sure, that also works, but it's not 100% better than the off-prem. So I think there is still good use cases for cloud. We're gonna use more AI, more software, more everything. So even if it doesn't 100x in the next 10 years because of on device and all the other stuff that can happen, it will still be bigger. I don't see a world where we need the data center less than what we are doing right now. So that's why I think data centers is going to grow. Is it going to be the one that grows the most? That's not what I say. What I say is going to grow almost for sure, according to me. And so, which means that the safest bet, if I had money to put, I would put into the same thing as Chamath is doing. And I like the split. I would also do land, power, and shell, and I would do cloud as well. He says that he doesn't want to do cloud because he's scared about retaining data, and it's going to get more and more, like, it's going to be harder. They will need to do KYC and all of this, and he doesn't want to be involved into all of these problems, which is interesting because we talked about that like 2 weeks ago, about like the model themselves asking to do KYC. I think it's gonna be okay. It may be hard, yes, but I think it's gonna be okay. So I would not be scared myself to do that. And then if I can get away from the silicon, I would not go there. Like, if once again, if I were an investor, just because I feel like there is way too much innovation right now, way too much competition, and it's not clear who is going to be the winner in 5 years. We don't know if this type of chip, I'm not talking about like this company or that company, I'm talking about that type of chip or that type of chip. So when a
we have no
company,
idea.
we have no idea, we have no clue. So when a company says, hey, my way of doing chip is the best way, sure, maybe that's the best way now, maybe that's the best way in 2 years, maybe something new is going to come up. I think there is way too much moving parts on the silicon side, and I don't like that much level of risk. I don't like to bet on one architecture against another. So
No.
I wouldn't go there. But I think the models, I mean, right now, all the proof that we have is that they are just going to zero, like they are just getting free. So
Yeah.
until there is something new that pops up, I don't think this is a good investment at all. Then the harness, I don't know what to think about it. But if I had to make a choice right now, if I had like to take a position, I would say that's a bad investment because and maybe I'm biased as well, or maybe I don't have enough
Because you
problems,
wrote
and
your own
so
harness, so like, why would
yes,
you care?
yeah, like really, I don't care at all. Like, I mean, I have Cloud, I have Codex, I have all of these guys, but I never use any of them because I built my own. So maybe it's and I built my own, and it was simple. It was not like super hard. It just took me like a couple of hours, and it was really simple. So, and every time I talk to someone about Cloud or something, I always tell them, "Man, you guys stop using it. It makes no sense. Just build your own harness. It's super simple, and then you can do whatever you want. It's way better." So that's what I say to everyone. So maybe that's because I don't have enough problems. I don't have like that governance problem, and we don't have to manage 1,000 employees and all of this. So my harness can be simple and straightforward. So maybe that's why I don't really see why we really need this. And that's exactly what 1890 from Chamath want to do, right? You want to do harnesses inside big enterprises where deploying AI is
Right.
much
So this
harder.
is where we need to be careful
Yeah,
from an investment
exactly.
standpoint, because part of what he's talking about is he's talking up his own position, right? He's
Yes,
making an investment thesis for the company that he's building.
Yeah.
The biggest issue that he has when you're buying land
Mhm.
is that he's not in control of any what's the right word, geographical locations, regulatory environment. And that could switch on a dime, where just like
Yes.
some new government gets installed in some
That's true.
small town in Tennessee and just goes, yeah, we're not having data centers here.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
It's
So
true.
he's already bought the land. And the thing is, like, I can buy, I want to say this right, I can buy a piece of land in Tokyo where zoning laws are kind of flexible, let's say.
Mhm.
And even if I put a house up on it, I could sell that land and then somebody could put a condo there. We see this happen all the time in Bangkok, right?
Mhm, mhm.
But if I buy land where there's a data center supposed to go, the value of that land is only associated with the potential data center that's going to get put up there. And if I build the shell, then I can't turn that into like condos, particularly because it's in the middle of nowhere. Do you know what I mean? So like the value of the land is really only related to the thing that he wants to put there. And
Especially
if the
right now.
regulatory environment changes, he has a problem. And
Especially
he's not in control of that risk.
especially right now, right? Like I think right now, if
Yeah,
you have
for sure.
land in the US and you see Chamath coming, and you're like, okay, my land is actually 5 times more expensive than
That's the
2 years
point,
ago,
though.
right?
That's why
So
you never
yeah.
announce your intentions or
Mhm.
why you're doing something. You just quietly
Yeah.
accumulate stuff.
No, it's true. This is really weird actually. Now that I think about it this way, it's really weird because yeah, like if I know that you want to build a data center, then my land is now 5 times more expensive than before. And
Exactly.
plus, you're right. Like if the regulation changes, and that's actually a really big risk. Huh? Like we've talked about
It's
that. We
huge because but you're not in control of it at all. And it's not like if it does change, you can change your strategy on a dime.
yes,
It could take years.
yeah, and
And
then
we already know it takes years to build a data center. It takes years to connect it to the power grid, and it takes years to build the
yeah,
power.
yeah,
And while you're doing that, your money's dead.
yes,
So I don't know. Like again, I agree on the software side because I don't think most people and most big companies are going to do what you did and build their own harness.
mhm,
I just don't think so. I think they'll outsourcing is the wrong word, but they'll pay for that
No,
because they don't
it's
want to
possible.
deal
Yeah.
with that, right? In the same way that they're not going to train their own models per se, at least not in the next like 6 to 7 years. but the data center stuff, I think that money could sit there dead for a long time.
So then we only do cloud then.
Yeah. So if he wants to,
Yeah.
but the question is,
we go into an existing data center,
right,
and
and then
that
just
is already
refurbish
there.
it. Like I would buy an
Yes.
existing data center tomorrow because
Yes.
it's unlikely it's going to get shut down.
Yes. So then the only one that's left is cloud into existing data centers.
Right.
And,
that makes sense to me.
And that's what I've said like what million times at N4 billion open I should do right now. Take the money that's left.
But like, did you see? I mean, this is again not off topic. If you're saying that that's what they should do, but like, OpenAI seems way more focused on a device business.
Yeah.
Like they're hiring a bunch of people from Apple. We talked about this last Thursday or maybe last Monday. And they've come out and said, like, yeah, they're not working on one device. They're working on a family of devices. Mm-hmm. Well, where I think what they should be doing is working on a family of data centers.
Exactly. No, for sure. They should be doing the data centers. I mean, we talk about that all the time. It's I don't know why they are not doing all in on the data center right now. Like, especially right now that DeepSeek, I mean, even do it, DeepSeek works. Like if everybody start to cancel their Anthropic and ChatGPT subscription to use DeepSeek for $5 a month, they're gonna have a big problem. They're gonna really have
a gigantic problem.
It's going to be a gigantic problem. So all in on data centers yesterday and wherever in the world, doesn't matter. Just do something. Just do something. Yep. But yeah, but I think pretty interesting by Chamath, this post. Also, I like the way that he wrote it. Like it's pretty positive, and it's not like, hey, you have to do this. It's like, here's what I think. Here's how I think about this and how I would do it. And then he said, just good luck to all you. Like, good luck to you all. I think it's pretty nice.
Well, at least the fact is, it's double-edged in a way, right? He's willing to put his thoughts out there, which are nice, but also he's talking his own position, right? Yes. So that's a different thing. Anyway.
Especially on the honest side. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, he's already said he's committing his own capital and building a company that's going to build that stuff out. So, like, I'm not impressed. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Let's see.
In that sense. So, fair enough.
Let's see how it goes. Okay, you want to talk about our third topic? That's actually a pretty, I mean.
Should we save it?
No, I think let's.
We have 9 minutes.
Yes, let's do it.
Okay. I mean, the whole concept is that there was a survey done of 1,200 C-suite executives, right? And 1,200 employees across the U.S. and some Western European markets. You have the thing up there, yeah?
Yeah.
Do you want to? I gave you the link to the other thing, no?
To which thing?
To the full report.
Yes, so that's the full report that I'm showing right now.
Well, no, that's the place to download the report. But if you want to put up this, sorry, I thought you already had that. Give me a second.
If you have the report.
No, I have it. I have the link. There you go. Try that.
Okay. Perfect. We have it now.
So, again, this report went out and did an analysis, right, of 1,200 C-suite executives and 1,200 employees, and it was conducted between December 2025, and January 2026. And every employee that they talked to was already using generative AI at work, and every executive worked at a company that was adopting AI. And I think there are a whole bunch of really interesting things in here. We don't have enough time left to go through all of this, but let's just run through some of the top level topics. One is AI use has just become routine. People are doing it. Mm-hmm. Okay. Individual benefits, meaning individuals that use it, according to this report, has not translated just simply into enterprise returns. Something like 48% of executives described their company's AI adoption as a major disappointment, which I thought was interesting. That's almost half. And only 29% say they've seen significant returns from generative AI, and the figure falls to 23% for AI agents. I will say this, let me just give a little bit more. 59% say their company invests at least $1 million annually in generative AI, not a lot of money. And 64% expect it to take at least 3 years to produce a company-wide return. I think that's fair. Mm-hmm. And the other thing that's super interesting is that AI strategy is lagging behind adoption, meaning everyone's strategically trying to understand like where this thing is going to fit. 39, like 69% of executives say their company's conducting layoffs because of AI. But I do think that some of them are going to have to hire some people back because they're going to realize we actually need people to manage this stuff. And the people that understand systemically what's going on inside the company are probably going to be better at managing the use of AI as opposed to like new people or junior people. And here's something else that's super interesting. 75% say that the corporate AI strategy is designed more for external presentation than internal direction. This is not shocking.
But to be honest, Michael, to me, once again, I take my own use case, but I think if you put me into any company tomorrow,
you'd be fired. But you'd be fired right away. Not because you're bad at work. No, don't. That's a compliment,
No.
Martin.
I agree.
I know you think I'm insulting you, but I'm not.
No. I agree. I completely agree with you.
As a matter of fact, they wouldn't even hire you because you're too smart.
But also, I think
you're unemployable.
Exactly, but also I would change absolutely everything, right? Like, I would
be fired on day one.
Exactly. I would be the most annoying.
Guys, can we do? You're fired.
I would be the most annoying guy in the company, and everybody would hate me.
The second most annoying guy. You know who the most annoying guy would be?
Tell me.
Me. Because that's what I did my entire career. I was like hanging by a thread. I was high performing. I made a lot of money, but I was hanging by a thread every time because I was like, we shouldn't do it that way. We should do it this way.
But you can't.
And they were like, literally, can you shut up?
Wow.
Yeah. I'm like, I will when we stop making more money based on the things that I'm suggesting.
Yes, and I would do that. And so that's why, like, when I see that companies have no use cases for AI, I'm like, just wake up. Like, I mean, just put me somewhere into your company, and I'm gonna find you like 1 million use cases for your company right now, right?
But this dovetails nicely. Can I just say two more things? Because I don't disagree with you.
Go ahead.
Companies are creating a new internal hierarchy of like AI elites and non-AI elites. And I want to say one more thing after that, and then you can keep going. 92% of executives say that they are actively trying to cultivating. Here's the group of people that want to use AI, and here's the group of people that don't and that are bad at it. Okay. And the report also says that these super users are 5 times more productive than employees with weak AI skills.
Oh, wow.
Not shocking. But here's what's actually really interesting, Martin. And you're maybe too old for this. What are you, Gen X?
No idea. I'm born in 1993.
Okay, I'm checking.
But so while you're doing that, like I feel it maybe Michael, the root of all the problems around AI adoption in enterprises is that it looks like AI sneaked into an enterprise through its employee. Like
we'd say snuck in, not sneaked.
Yes, yeah. Perfect.
It's cute, but it's wrong.
We do English class as well on AGTP inside. It's really great.
Cute. It's wrong though. But
so that's what I think. It looks like AI got into the company through its employees. So it was like more like bottom up rather than top to the bottom, where the company didn't have any training in place. They didn't have any use cases. They didn't have any process to actually deploy AI into their companies. It's the employee themselves, either because they are lazy or because they want to do their work less hard, or they want to do more work and they're motivated or they are ambitious. For all of these reasons combined, they just started to use AI by themselves, basically. And they didn't wait over companies to train them, to explain to them, to implement the harness, to implement the governance, to implement the security. And it's a massive mess basically now. And now what do we do, right? Like, it's like, okay, now we got this thing completely wrong from the get-go.
So there's one more data point. So you're considered a millennial. I don't know what that means.
Okay.
And I'm not sure if it matters that much, but Gen Z, which you are way too old to be included in.
It's what, like it's up to 25, something like that, Gen Z?
I have no idea. I've been accused of being a baby boomer. I'm not even close.
Okay.
I'm Gen X. But anyway, the resistance inside these companies is apparently, according to this report, becoming really visible. So let me just run through some stuff and then you can jump off if you have to. 29% of employees fall within what the report calls sabotaging the company's AI strategy. Sabotaging is a really strong word. It doesn't mean like they're not using it. It means they're actively trying to push against it.
Yeah.
And according to the report, the figure reaches 44% if you're Gen Z.
Half of
So
them.
not you guys,
Yeah.
but your younger compatriots are
So
just going, yeah, I've had enough of this. And
mhm.
it includes using unapproved tools, ignoring guidelines, and refusing training. Like, I'm not going to that class.
Half of them. Half of the people. And
Almost half. But
yeah.
Martin, like if I literally like training when I was at Goldman Sachs.
Mhm.
Sorry. I can't say the word mandatory without thinking about the way one of my ex-Japanese girlfriends would pronounce it. Mandatory. Anyway, but it was mandatory. And if you didn't do training, they would like HR would call you. And if you just refused to do it, they would fire you. And fear of job loss is the most common stated reason for people that don't want to participate in this, for the sabotaging that they're doing. And 76% of execs that were part of this survey regard this behavior as a serious threat to their companies.
It's to me, it's absolutely insane, to be honest. It looks like they are living in a completely different world, just like managed by corporate. I don't want to say the word, but like corporate politics, right? Like corporate inside politics, where everybody has different goals and different ambition. Like when I see this stat, Michael,
But it's like, why are you at work if you're just there to like, you know what I mean? Like if you're
just
trying to sabotage your let me just give you an example.
yeah.
When I first started doing portfolio trading, like
Mhm.
executing portfolio trades, it was all done manually.
Mhm.
But we wanted to increase the size of the business. We've gone through this before. Once we started doing algorithmic trading,
Yeah.
there were a bunch of guys who were like, oh my God, I might get fired. And I just literally sat there and I was like, I got to understand like how these algos work more than anybody else so that you
Exactly.
don't get fired. And I was like one of the biggest users of them. I helped develop them. I helped work with them. I wrote slicing, like I did a whole bunch of stuff so that when the algos were actually written and deployed, I knew exactly what was going on.
Yes, 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 yes.
And I never got fired because of technology, ever.
Which makes me think, I think this is the same question that you asked me earlier about the sentiment analysis. Like, do we know like what are the companies doing? Do we know what are their agenda and what they are doing?
Yeah.
I think here, like maybe this report, when you see the numbers like this, it looks crazy, but I think it overlooks something that is maybe super important to note, which is we may see actually maybe it just hides the fact that there may be two completely different type of companies. The one that implement AI at the fullest, who get massive benefit from it, and basically where all the numbers here are like 0, 0, 0, 0, like everybody's like full on, they love
All
it,
in.
and all in, and it's amazing. And then another group of companies where it's really bad, right? And then if you take the entire thing, it looks like 75% of the companies do something bad, but actually it's not that. It's more like these some companies on one side that are zero, and some company on the other side that are at 100%. I feel like that's more of a case, because I think like a company like Facebook, for example, who's been totally matching and doing like all of these crazy things. I think their AI implementation is much closer to, okay, we see massive ROI, we love that, blah 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 blah. And then another company that is maybe into different industries where people are less tech savvy and all of these things, like companies that are outside of a tech bubble, they may have much less use cases, and then much more difficulty to actually implement AI and be happy with it. And so then they are more on the side of everybody is unhappy. So maybe there's a little bit of that as well. And Michael, you can reply, you can give your opinion. I will leave you do that because I will welcome our guests and I will see everyone on Thursday.
Super duper.
So thank you everyone for joining us today. We'll welcome our guests now, and I will see you on Thursday, the same time, 10 a.m. Eastern time, for some news. See you everyone, and see you, Michael.
Thank you, Martin. So I wanted, Martin, are you still there? Okay. Let's mute you as well this time. Thank you, man. I want to go through in a little bit more detail what I was talking about when we started implementing artificial intelligence at Goldman Sachs, and frankly at some other companies that I was working when I was in Tokyo. And I do think it's important to mention the fact that, there was a lot of fear on the trading desks, not just on the equity portfolio trading desk, but even on the single stock trading desk, where a lot of technology was being implemented really quickly that automated a lot of the trading, both from a risk perspective and from a we're trading for a client, which is considered acting as an agent, so an agency perspective as well. But the point was that it was always clear to the employees that were high quality and high caliber employees that they would never get fired, at least at those companies, just by the implementation of technology, but that they would secure their jobs more carefully or more closely if they understood exactly how that technology worked, where it could be implemented, and then frankly to find new ways to use automation to make the businesses bigger. We don't have to go through all of the numbers, but literally, if I remember my numbers correctly, when I first joined the portfolio trading desk at Goldman, it was trading like $400 million a day. that's just when we were acting as an agent. And by the time I left, like 5 or 6 years later, we were trading in the billions of dollars a day. Like it was normal. I mean, I can remember the first day we did $1 billion of business, $1 billion of executed trades. And it felt like a watershed. And to be fair, everybody that was involved in that business that was implementing the technology, that understood how that tech worked or how it was making us more productive, and the people that stayed in that business, all of them got promoted. They were frankly the smartest people that were there because they could see how this stuff was going to happen 2 and 3 years. What was going to happen in this business like 2 and 3 years out. and again, that was also, it was artificial intelligence. It wasn't as advanced as it is today, but it was definitely there, and it definitely made us way more productive. We made way more money by doing that and implementing that stuff. And frankly, we never actually got rid of anybody because of technology. We just increased the size of the business. We all did more work for sure, but nobody got fired for that. Martin, let's bring David in. David, how are you? I am doing super duper. Where are you right now?
Between Austin and San Antonio.
Awesome. I've never been to San Antonio. I have been to Austin, but it was a while ago. I'm sure it's changed a lot since the last time I was there. It's great to have you. And Austin, beautiful, by the way. It's great to have you on the show. We wanted to talk. Oh, you're very welcome. We wanted to have you on to talk about how cryptographic infrastructure is going to help financial institutions secure AI, protect payments, and adapt to quantum error risks. But first, maybe you can tell us a little bit, just for some context, about what the important work is that Futurex does.
Yeah, so Futurex, we've been around for over 40 years, securing payment data, general infrastructure, federal data, backed by hardware. So Futurex is a manufacturer of HSMs, hardware security modules. Mm-hmm. You can think of them like a TPM that's in your smartphone protecting secrets, but at the scale of data centers. And so Futurex is at the heart of where cryptographic operations happen for the most secure applications in the world.
How would you say that that's changed in the last couple of years? Like just with all of the fast-paced stuff that's happening, not just in the artificial intelligence space, but in the data centers that actually run that space, how has the HSM business or market changed as that stuff just becomes more ubiquitous?
Yeah, I would say over the last 10 years, the use cases for HSMs and just encryption in general has exploded. Individuals and security teams have realized that data needs to be encrypted. They can no longer just rely on general network security to protect data coming in. They need to expect that someone is inside their network. And how do they protect data with someone inside their network? And encryption is a very obvious choice to solve that problem. So 10 years ago, when I was speaking with individuals in the industry, I was typically educating them on what HSMs are and what encryption is and how it works. And today, that's not the case. HSMs are everywhere. Encryption is used to protect all classifications of data. And the industry is moving extremely quickly today, and that's being driven by a lot of different new technologies. You mentioned a few of them. Quantum computers are becoming a reality, and in the next few years, you will see just an explosion of compute power in the quantum realm. And Futurex, we're at the heart of making sure enterprises are able to protect themselves from encryption threats that come from quantum computers. And the government's helping with that. If you look even recently in June, we had Executive Order 14412 come out, which is accelerating the timelines of when organizations need to be ready for quantum computers.
Right.
So encryption in the cryptography space is blowing up right now, and there are changes coming every day in the news. So it's been a fun ride. I've been with Futurex for 18 years now, and seen a lot of change.
You have. Although it doesn't look like you've aged that much, unless you joined when you were like 12 years old. So good for you.
I appreciate that.
You're like, I'm 72, but I really look good. I need to ask you this, though. One of the things you said, and you kind of said it in passing, was like, you have to make this presumption that somebody has actually violated your company, has actually entered into your data space. And with quantum coming, I think, it's always just like 3 to 5 years away, but I think we're closer to that 3 to 5 years today than we were 10 years ago. Let's just say that, right? Because the market's moving really quickly. And, I think technological implementation, and you tell me where you think I'm wrong, but you've been there for 18 years. I feel like it's going bankrupt. It happens really slowly and then happens immediately. And I feel like technology is the same way. And I think quantum's going to be the same thing, where it happens really slowly. People are developing it. IBM's building, like all these companies are trying to build chips that can actually do this and make it stable. And then one day it's just going to be there. Boom. But in the interim, you have these sort of massively illegal enterprises using artificial intelligence and creating these massive data centers that are like just literally going out and creating billions of instructions to just go and try to log in to everybody's data lake, data center, whatever it is, and do something called harvest now and decrypt later. So getting access to all this data, how risky is it that once quantum comes, that the encryption that we have today obviously is going to be kind of meaningless, but then there'll be all this other data out there. And sure, if it comes 3 years from now, some of that data is going to be 3 years old, but it still could be personal data, it could be health data, it could be insurance data, it could be banking data, it could be account information, it could be password, it could be a whole bunch of stuff that's encrypted today, but isn't later. How big is that risk from your perspective? And if it's big, how are even smaller or medium-sized enterprises, but large enterprises as well, preparing for this if quantum's coming sooner than they believe? Is that fair?
That is fair. And the paradigm of harvest now, decrypt later, that's existed and
Sure.
been a talking point for many years. And AI has greatly exacerbated that problem.
Exactly. Which is why I brought it up in that context. Sorry, go ahead.
Yep. Yeah. There's agents out there that easily now are indexing terabytes and terabytes and terabytes of data with the intention of, hey, we may not be able to decrypt it now.
Right.
Because it's we can later. And organizations, they see that now. And most organizations have either already or are in the middle of developing a plan to move to algorithms that are post-quantum safe. Smaller organizations typically rely heavily on vendors and service providers.
Yep, I know.
And so, these vendors and service providers all have plans as well. But the time for the singularity of when there is a quantum computer ready and capable of breaking current encryption algorithms, it's still unknown. But and researchers have debated on this for over a decade, and you never see it being pushed out. It was always, well, maybe 2040, maybe 2035, and now 2030 is I would say a safe consensus between most researchers of when either nation states or organizations with the means in order to build something like this will have a quantum computer capable of breaking classic encryption algorithms.
Right.
And so there's just a mass exodus now of people running and figuring this problem out. And from a data standpoint, with Harvest Now Decrypt data, it's all about classifications of data. There is data that that is harvested today that in 3-4 years, if it is decrypted, not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
But data like healthcare records
Right.
and financial records and government secret data, that's where it becomes a problem. And that's why there is so much focus on PQC. Futurex, we're at the heart of where encryption occurs for the most sensitive data.
Just for people that aren't into the nomenclature, PQC is post-quantum computing, yeah?
Correct. Post-quantum cryptography.
Cryptography, sorry. So people know, yeah.
Correct, yeah. So with classic algorithms, with classic compute, with the normal transistor-based compute technology that exists today, classic algorithms would take millions and millions of years to break a single key.
Right.
With quantum computers, though, these classic algorithms with a capable quantum computer can be broken very quickly.
Yeah.
And so PQC is a new set of algorithms. There were just a new set of algorithms in August of 2024 that were ratified by NIST, the government organization that ratifies cryptographic algorithms. And these new algorithms are resistant to quantum computers. So the common nomenclature is post-quantum cryptography. These are cryptographic algorithms that are resistant to quantum computers.
Right. So you've already mentioned this idea that that AI is accelerating or exacerbating this problem. We saw, what was it, 10 or 12 days ago, OpenAI announced with Hugging Face that they kind of accidentally, whoopsie, sorry, we just logged, we kind of broke into your systems and we saw your data. And then Anthropic came out and was like, hey, we did the same thing. Like, that's something you would brag about. It's like, it's like a thief running down like your street and going, hey, I broke into that guy's house. And then another thief going, I broke into 4 other houses, man. Like, you have no idea. I'm way better at stealing stuff than you are. I just find this whole thing kind of funny. But in that context, is it even more and more likely that a lot of this data is going to fall into this premise that we already talked about, that people are going to get this data sooner rather than later? And that, we talk about small and medium-sized enterprises, but they still have a massive impact on the economy, not just in developing markets, but even in the United States. Like, most of the economic activity actually happens in SMEs and SMBs. That's just true globally. They're not, and I know they have service providers to do this for them, but are they close to being ready for PQC? And if they're not, what do they have to do to get ready?
Yeah, I would say the industry as a whole, not just in the small business realm, but even larger enterprises, the moving to safe algorithms that are resistant to quantum computers is a extremely large project, and most enterprises are not there yet, and small businesses even more so are not there yet, because it's not what they live day to day. They don't have whole divisions that focus on cryptographic applications and how data is encrypted. They're relying on service providers and hoping they're doing the right thing. But with AI, what you mentioned with Hugging Face and OpenAI, it makes the possibility or the expectation that someone is already in your network even more complete. So making sure that you have some type of program to make sure all of your critical systems are resilient to PQC is something that CISOs and CTOs need to have on their immediate roadmap. And that's not always, for larger organizations, you have cryptographic services teams that is going what they live and breathe every day, and they have projects planned for that. But even smaller businesses, leadership needs to make sure where they index all of their data, where their most sensitive IP is, where their customer records are, and either work internally or with their service providers to make sure that there is a roadmap for PQC, because that day will come where the algorithms that we have relied on for 30 years are no longer relevant, and the fact that you're using them is meaningless.
Yeah,
They may as well be decrypted data.
Exactly. You may as well just be like, yeah, let me just hand you some paper with all my information on it. What role do HSMs play in making this change like less disruptive and more sort of seamless?
Yeah. So HSMs, I mentioned it earlier, are equivalent to the TPM for a data center. So organizations have all of these applications that process healthcare records and sensitive data, their customers' data, and protect IP. And there are cryptographic keys that are used in the process of encrypting that data and validating that data. And for those sensitive applications, you would offload those cryptographic keys to an HSM, because you don't trust these keys to be in software. If they're in software and someone has access to your servers, they have access to the cryptographic keys as well. So who cares that you're encrypting data if you have the keys? So HSMs allow you to offload that to a very specialized server. These servers are tamper responsive, meaning if someone were to try to physically or logically attack them, they will self-destruct and they will clear the keys that are used in order to protect your data. And so HSMs, because that's where cryptographic algorithms are executed for sensitive applications, we are at the heart of the PQC story. We are the first entity in your PQC plan that needs to support PQC, because if HSMs do not, then none of your other applications can as well.
So can I ask you this too, again, just for the audience to understand like just how significant this is and how big this market is? And again, tell me where I'm wrong, right? But I'm just kind of thinking about this out loud. As agentic AI becomes more prevalent and more ubiquitous, it also means that the number of doors that can get open into any company they're just more voluminous, yeah? In the old days, like maybe there was one way in, there was one API, but now with MCP and with APIs giving you access to almost all of some companies' functionality, particularly if they're SaaS. I mean, Salesforce 360 is the best example of this. Does it mean that the number of HSMs that need to get deployed is just higher, and that creating the PQC is just way more complex, whether it's inside of a financial institution or a health institution, or again, even just like an SME? Does the number of doors or entry points and the increased surface area that all this stuff is creating from an agentic AI standpoint mean that this just gets way harder and way more complex?
It does, absolutely. The door. I like your doors analogy. You know, in the past, when bad actors are wanting to get access to customer data or enterprise networks, there's a time commitment to do that, right? You have to find the doors and you have to find ways to get in those doors. With agentic processes, though, and agents coming up, you've gotten rid of that time commitment now. It's much easier to find the doors and then try to exploit the doors. And so HSMs are essential for protecting the keys that are used to protect those doors. And deploying HSMs has only gone up. And PQC is not the first initiative that has increased the use of HSMs. Over the past 20 years, HSMs have increased just because encryption has increased in organizations so much. And so you will see that increase. And, you know, it's for us, Futurex, we've grown immensely over the past 20 years, and we don't see that stopping. Encryption is a very good market to be in. And
because the other thing I was going to ask you, and I just wanted to write it down so I didn't forget, it's like, in the region where I live, these sort of complex criminal enterprises, right? And whether they're nation states or not nation states, it doesn't really matter to me, but they're becoming very sophisticated, right? And they're getting better and better at quietly. Like I know I've spoken about this on the podcast before, but I just want to mention it again. There was a book written in 1989 called The Cuckoo's Egg, right? And literally like some guy found a security breach because he was an accountant and he literally saw like a 17-cent or 98-cent discrepancy, and he just like went down. Have you read this book? You're shaking your head.
I have. Yes, I have.
Maybe I'm getting some of the details wrong, but you understand the point. Like they found it, and then they had to go all the way to Germany to like find the guy that actually broke. But they only found this because some dude was curious about like a 17 or 19. I can't remember what the number was. Accounting difference. But that is just like child's play compared to what some of these criminal enterprises are doing today. And they're way better at kind of like literally like sneaking into your house, going through some door that you didn't realize was open, hiding behind the curtains and waiting for a few years. And then when you're gone, like stealing all your television sets.
Yeah.
Has the introduction of these sort of really complex criminal enterprises changed the security surface as well, and how has that impacted you guys, and is that something you pay even closer and closer attention to as time goes on?
Yeah, so in the realm of AI, you've seen a massive spike in offensive attacks.
Yeah.
And at the same time, organizations are having to deploy those same techniques for defense as well. And so organizations are having to introduce AI agents into their security posture and into the tools that they're using to defend their networks, defend their data. And these AI agents oftentimes have more access than you would estimate for all of the data and network
governance
access
problems everywhere, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And HSMs are critical in interfacing with these AI agents to make sure the data that they're accessing is protected, even from the agents themselves, and making sure these agents should have access, making sure they're authenticated in a way to where organizations can validate that it's only their agents accessing data and only the keys that they should have access to are accessible. So we've seen a massive spike in HSMs interfacing with agents in some manner. That may be through applications hosting MCPs, as you mentioned, that present data. That may be for protecting secrets that are needed in order for the agents to function. But you're going to see a spike. It's almost another version of the Cold War, but at a smaller scale, where the black hats are becoming more and more advanced in their work with agentic AI, and the defense that organizations have to deploy keep becoming more advanced. And you're not going to see that changing in the next 10 years. That will just continue to grow. And you saw that with Hugging Face and the open AI issue, where Hugging Face, the attack was so advanced that Hugging Face had to deploy open source models in order to figure out what was going on and who was attacking their network.
Right. I'm looking up something because I want to make an analogy, but I want to make sure that I get the author right. So just give me a second. Yeah, I think I'm trying to remember the name of the guy that wrote this book. Tom Clancy. Yeah, it was Tom Clancy. I don't know if you've heard of this author, but he wrote a book where all of the warfare. And I remember reading this, and I probably read this in like the mid 90s, right? I think. And I remember reading this just thinking, wow, we're definitely going to get there. Like I could imagine a future that looked like this, and I'll tell you what this is, and then I'll let you go after you respond. But he talked about drone warfare, like just like spews of drones just like flying and attacking other drones. And I feel like this is kind of what the security space is like too, where it's like machines fighting other machines, where humans are like monitoring and watching it. It's almost like a video game at some level. Is that what it feels like to you guys as well?
Absolutely. And you're already starting to see it on the data side and on the networking side, where agentic agents are attacking networks, attacking sensitive data, and trying to exfiltrate that data. But agents will have access to some type of physical infrastructure. And that will continue to grow over time. And as agents do have access to physical infrastructure, that's where security needs even more focus. And encryption is going to be part of that. Digital signatures around firmware updates to these physical entities that agents sit on will be extremely critical. So, with AI is an interesting paradigm because it is only exacerbated the need for encryption and for digital signatures. And Futurex, we sit at the heart of that. And we will continue to see where the industry goes and make sure we're adapting our technology to support critical infrastructure. Because you use encryption every day, whether you know it or not, every time you're at a gas pump, every time you go to a website. And all of these keys are critical to your day-to-day life.
Okay. David, look, I'm going to thank you for doing this fascinating stuff. I feel like you and I could have like a 3-hour conversation about this. I'm going to let you go. But thank you for spending so much time with us. I hope you actually have time in your life to sleep, because it feels like it's a 24-hour, 8-day a job, 8-day a week job. But still, thank you for spending the time with us. Really good stuff. It was great to meet you as well.
Yeah, it was nice meeting you. Thank you very much.
Thanks, man. Okay, bye for now. Okay, Martin, let's bring in Alex. Alex, how are you? Thank you for your patience, by the way. Nice to meet you as well. Where are you based? Where?
New York.
Sweet. Okay, I've been there before. Good stuff. Okay, we wanted to have you on for a bunch of reasons, but not the least of which is to talk about how confidential AI infrastructure can help businesses use and monetize sensitive data without surrendering control of it. I think this is really important, particularly in an age where like LLMs are like sucking up data everywhere. And there's some sense of like, is my data actually protected? Should I share it with these LLMs and stuff like that? But before we get to that, maybe you can tell us about some of the important work that Rena Labs is doing.
Yeah, sure. As for Rena, actually, we are building data infrastructures for everyone can share your private data to another one without leaking the raw data. So you can use it, but you cannot see it. And right now, we are cooking, a proactive agent based on that called Addis. And it's not just, a normal passive agent, I would say. It's like it will solve your problem with activity and only give you something you can review, not asking you to give him a lot of tasks, and it will do it. One prompt, one action, one prompt, one action. It should be one memory, all actions. Yeah.
What does that mean? One memory, one action?
Like usually when you're using some, agent or like Codex or cloud, usually you have to give them prompts, and then they will give you the feedback according to your prompts. But for us, we can connect all your social medias or all your CRM, email, Slack, LinkedIn, or your corporations, CRM, whatever, and then we don't ask you questions. We just plug in your meetings, your daily working, and then every time when you finish something, we got the context, and then we detect your task for yourself, and we do it, and show you the draft, show you the results. We don't ask question, we just execution.
But how do you keep the data? How do you keep the data that's proprietary, right? And obviously has value. Otherwise, you wouldn't care if other people saw it. But how do you keep it confidential when you're doing this stuff? In other words, in what format and in what form is it provided to the artificial intelligence model so that the model can understand the data but doesn't see the data? How does that work?
Actually, it's not a model, it's a middleware. And we're building it for the past 2 years, working with some B2B clients already. It's based on hardware. So we put everything inside of the Intel TTX or H100, this hardware, and it's like a black box.
Is
so every
this
time
an HSM or?
No, it's TE. It's called Trusted Execution Environment.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. And many corporations already use it.
TEs or no? You just use them. Yeah. You build a software layer that sits on top of the TEs.
Yeah. We build a software layer for TE. We don't create this technology. This technology all being for 20 years.
No, that's okay. So, fine. I'm just for, again, for the listeners and for the viewers, so they can get a better understanding of how this works. When somebody implements this system, how can they be sure that the output that they're getting from their artificial intelligence is actually, do you know what I mean? Like, how can they be 100% sure that it's based on the data that they're putting into the TE that's getting served to the AI model and then comes back with an answer, particularly in the case where the models themselves are not deterministic but probabilistic, right? So they could come back with different answers each time.
Yeah, I would say the point is not making sure the answers is based on the knowledge. The most important thing is how can the users make sure their data is protected by the TE, right? And that's why we use TE, because TE is one of the technology can let users to attest it by themselves. If they don't trust us, if they don't trust this technology, they can they can just do the attestations by themselves. We said mimic the process by themselves.
Got it.
And then they can get the same results. That's how we evaluate the process. Yeah.
And what is the implications of PQC on this? So post-quantum cryptography, and like, and what is the implication of the introduction of quantum computing on a TE, or doesn't it matter at all?
I would say it matters because TE is based on hardware. So if
That's what I mean.
If in the future it's advanced enough, I would say TE is not safe. But at least for now, in 20 years, I don't see the possibilities. Yeah.
Wait, say that again. In how many years?
I would say 20 years, because the compute on TE is based on both things, hardware and math. So even though the quantum things, they are advanced enough, maybe they can crack into the hardware, but for the math, I don't think so. Yeah. So yeah.
Interesting. How can a company, so we already talked about testing the result to make sure that what's coming back is actually based on the data that you're giving it, right? Because the model itself can't visibly see the stuff, it doesn't know. But then how can a company know that the model can actually interact with its data, even though it is kind of encrypted, right, based on the TE, but then it's only being used for the request that it's making, that it's not somehow saving it somewhere else and then using it for something else?
Because every time when you try to ask some questions, it will try to fetch the memories you stored before, and it will sound like very like you, the answer the agent gave to you. And there's some questions they have to rely on the memories. That's why you can judge, oh, it has my memories. And every time, even if you want to export the memories, it will reject you because we set some skills inside of the memory layer. And with TE, that's why it's impossible to export your existing data, your memories, but you can use it.
Got it. And what role, like I presume you're dealing a lot with financial services companies, right? And even health organizations, because that's where a lot of proprietary data is and a lot of data that people don't want to get exposed to the rest of the world.
Yes.
What does it look like to make financial services business as secure as they possibly can be? And like, how many of these TEs do they actually need to implement to get this done properly?
I would say many financial institutions, they're already using TE for years. Like they use it because they have a lot of sensitive data. Sometimes they don't want to share it, but they have to. That's the time they use it. And that's also the reason why we work with them. We work with many foundations and also hedge funds, trading firms. They want to use us to share the training data, because training data is very sensitive. But for our new product Alice, I would say that can apply to adding BD marketing operations, because this kind of role, they have a lot of company sensitive data.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, when they're doing the task, if they're using agent, that right now nobody is not using agent. If you're not, maybe you are fall behind of others. But nobody care about the privacy when you're using agent. That's very dangerous, right?
So do you work with companies on agentic AI governance, in the sense that they need to know, like, what type of systemic stuff they need to build around their agents so that their data does stay secure?
We try to work with some governance or some regulation, the compliant, agentic companies. I would say they care about it, but their goal is more like, oh, we use agent to make your company more compliant or more
Right.
compliance. But our goal is like we make it in default, so you don't need to worry about in the future someone or some of your users will sue you, say, Alex, your agent is great, but violate the privacy settings. I'm suing you guys for my privacy.
Yeah, you don't
You
want
want
to get
no one want to get the accusations by that, right? So
not at all. What does insider cash do, and what has it taught you about the way financial institutions act and produce like trusted market intelligence without giving away what their data is, their private trading data? I presume this is the stuff that hedge funds are using, yeah?
Yeah. For insider cash is for the hedge fund using. It's like we help a lot of the hedge funds to share their trading order book data to their clients, VC, or their partners. So their partners or their clients can understand what's going on with the trading, but they cannot see what's the details in the order book. Because if they can see it, imagine if I will buy 1 million or 2 million, I don't know,
Shares of some company,
maybe stocks. Yeah. And then what will I do? I will buy it first before you. And then after you buy
That's
it,
not
I can
nice.
sell it. Yeah, it's front running. That's
Yeah,
why
front
it's
running is
important for
bad.
them to do that. But for trading firm, because it's the request of the clients, and also a lot of clients, they also need more transparency of the trading process. They want to make sure you are doing a great job. That's why they have to share. And that's the dilemma. And
Yes.
then
Sorry, go ahead. I interrupted you. Go ahead.
that's why when they ask their trading firm to share the data, they can't say no, but they can't say yes. That's why they find the middle way, like a middleware, to share the results of the analysis of the raw data, not the raw data itself. And they can prove that, okay, this is by the raw data and this is safe. That's how it works.
So are you suggesting that hedge funds use this information as kind of like a marketing tool where some potential investor or some potential client of theirs says, prove to me that you've actually made these trades and let me actually analyze like what this data is, without showing them the data? Then the model itself can actually see it, not see it, but use it or employ that data and then come up with the trading results without exposing exactly what that data is, but with the knowledge that that's the data that the hedge fund has actually provided to them, so that they can make a decision on whether they want to actually invest in that hedge fund or not.
Correct. Or they will hire the hedge fund to do the trading for them, because some of them, they will provide some money for them. Yeah.
Interesting. And how fast is this business growing?
I would say we're building this for 2 years. And until now, we're already connected for more than 40 trading firms. They agree to work with us. And also another 20 hedge funds clients working with us, because this business model requires the hedge fund clients to pay for us. We don't charge too much for the hedge funds. So this is like B2B, infrastructure level deal. Yeah, I would say not that fast, because you talk to all the old dinosaurs. They care about their privacy. They working very slow. Yeah.
But what's the business model then for you guys? So if you're not charging the hedge funds a lot of money, where is most of the revenue coming from?
Because the hedge fund clients will hire us to monitor the hedge funds.
Got it.
That's why every deal, it's a huge ton of money. It's more than 10 billion, the trading volume. Yeah. So that's why we will charge them based on their trading volume. Yeah.
Yeah. What are some of the risks around using TEEs? You mentioned the fact that like even if quantum allows you to break into the machine itself, it can't break into the math that it's doing internally. Why is that not possible even with quantum? Like, why is this math so complicated or so complex that when quantum computing comes, that it won't be able to crack that math? Or is it just you feel like the quantum computing thing is just so far away?
I would say so far away, because right now because most of the the TE broke, the kind of case it happens before, right? It's because of the hardware is leaked. So they just attack the hardware, make sure the hardware is not working, and then they can crack the TE. But in the physical level, that's possible. But in theoretical level, I think the Qwen is really hard to get into TE. Yeah. Even with AI. But I saw that OpenAI right now, there's some mathematics, they join OpenAI, and they're using the AI to crack some difficulties.
I'm curious what you think about this. So I was having a conversation earlier with somebody. We talked about this. OpenAI has announced or like just talked to people about the fact that they solved like 10 mathematical problems that hadn't been solved before. And I think that the artificial intelligence model is going to continue to get better and better at solving mathematical problems. It's not clear to me, though, whether in this particular case, they actually solved problems that other really important mathematicians were trying to solve, or if this is just like a marketing ploy on their side, right? And I'm curious what you think about this. Do you have more details on this? And do you know whether they actually solved problems that were impossible for humans to solve, or that humans were just like, we don't really care about this problem, and that OpenAI is just using this as a marketing thing?
I'm not a professional in math, but because my major in my university is also math, so I know so many of them. Yep. I would say for OpenAI, as all we know, AI is not that innovative. It can only use the tools it already have, right? What AI did for this math proof is trying to combine all the tools we know, like human beings knows. So like they try one by one, 1 plus 1, 1 plus 2, 1 plus 3. So that's a good way. Yeah, for us to cracking something we already know. But if there's some concepts, it has to rely on something we don't know, like some new rules, some new settings. That's impossible for AI. You still have to rely on the human beings. But that's a good way for us to focus on the something we think we definitely need to invent something new and use the new tools to solve that one. That's perfect. But for AI, it can help us to skip all the problems. We can use the existing tools to prove. That's good for AI. So human beings can save the time and focus on the bigger image.
Yeah, I got it. Like, it's not coming up with its own new mathematical concepts. It's just taking the tools we already have and going out and just almost like, banging on these problems until it solves them. Okay. Alex, thank you so much for coming and doing this today. Really, really interesting stuff. I really appreciate your time. It's been a long time since I've been in New York, and I can see outside your back window. It looks like it's actually nice today. I'm a little bit envious.
But it's raining yesterday.
I'm sorry about that. Okay, man. Which part of New York do you live in, just out of curiosity?
Near the Korean town. Yeah.
Perfect. Makes sense. Okay, dude. Thank you so much for your time again. Really interesting stuff, and good luck with your continuous building. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you so much for your time. Yeah, have a nice day.
It's very nice to meet you, Alex. Bye for now.
Yeah, cheers.
Okay, everybody, that is it today for AGTP Insights. Thank you to everybody who joined us, and thank you to everybody who's watching this now after we actually publish it. Give us a thumbs up on today's video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on all of our socials on X, on Instagram, and on LinkedIn. Ask us questions, give us comments, give us feedback, let us know of guests that you want us to have on the show so we can have some really great discussions with them and learn things from them. Again, we'll be back again on Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern time. My name is Michael Waits. Let's thank Martin Runford again. I'm going to say goodbye for now.